He
That was
seems
a
happy.
yes. When you didn't say anything, that's a yes.
No.
Yes.
Lazy consensus.
Yeah, it's too late. It's already a consent. All right. We're live. I have too many windows open.
You know that OpenTF, they finally released a fork that they were talking about last few weeks.
Yes.
Who? What?
OpenTF, the new version of Terraform. They say
The new version, no.
They-
Fork.
I mean, they say it's a fork, but it's actually not a fork. It's a independent repo.
Oh, yeah.
So they probably have to improve the communication.
Is that good or bad?
I don't care.
We will see.
All right.
Never used it. So, like,
So generator. Back to the issue at hand.
Ah, yeah. So 'cause it was different. The reason why we changed. Okay.
Huh?
Just continue.
Yeah, so generator, parser. Have a little bit of an issue updating it, or we need to figure out a way forward. Sergio, do you want to take us through it, or do you want me to do it?
You can do it. You can make it. I trust on you. Trust
Cool.
you.
I'll set away my food then.
Oh well, if you want, I can do it. Just keep eating. Really?
Nah, it's okay. I'll do it. Now it's too late. Now I set it away. Okay, so we kind of have to decide how the future should look like for the generator and templates. And what it comes down to is how backwards compatible do we want to be? We have, I think we have two options for the generator. One is that we always support multiple parser versions. So a template can decide exactly which version of the parser it wants to, or the template it is written in when used to iterate over objects. Or we decide to only support a single version, the newest one, and that's it. And then you just have to update your template. The first option means that we are backwards compatible as much as possible, and means that everything functions as normal. But if you, for example, use an old parser version in your template, it does mean that your template does not support version 3, for example. So that means that you have to update your template in order for it to work with v3. However, it will mean that when you use the CLI and when you use the generator, your template will always work. So that means that you don't have to juggle between and making sure that you're using the right CLI version and the right generator version in order to run your template or generate whatever you're generating with your template. The second option is way more cutthroat in some sense, because it means that, like, even though there isn't anything in the horizon right now that says that it will be updated again, like the parser API version, it still means that you have to update your template in order to work with the newest generator version. And it will be the only one maintained. And it is easier for us as maintainers, but it does cut out a lot of users, or at least force their hand to do something about it. in order for it to work. So that's kind of the two options. We have to figure out which one we want to go with. Unless one of you see a third one.
I have to say, did you all read the issue? I guess, right?
The one in the parser?
Yes, the one that was. I'm gonna share it.
I think I commented it.
Yes, you did.
So I did read it.
That doesn't mean that you read it. That just means you commented.
Is it like, Sergio, do you have this impression that you read my comment and you have a feeling I didn't read the issue?
No, I don't. No, not at all. What I have the feeling is that the issue doesn't. My writing perhaps doesn't explain pretty well the issue. Maybe, but nothing else.
So what is the issue?
Well, the issue is what Jonas told us, right? In practice, things like, for example, generating code through the CLI, which means CLI calling the generator for generating something based on a template. We'll need to understand between both libraries. We'll need to talk the same language, let's say in that way, in order to generate that thing. Why? Because the way it works is that CLI parses the document and sends the parsed document to Modelina.
Template. Oh, okay.
Sorry, I'm talking about generator, but I'm talking about Modelina. Sorry. It's the same issue, in fact, in there. Come back to generator again. We will talk about Modelina later. So again, for generating code, you use the generator. And how it works is that you call the generator in order to generate, let's say, documentation, HTML. And those are based on the templates, and the templates are tied to one version of the generator through one field, right? Which is called, I think, generator. And a new field that we added recently that is called API version, I think. That it's for telling the generator which parser API version is compatible the template with. Why that's important? Because otherwise the template could fail, right? So if the template tries to fetch something that it's not in the current API that it's in use, let's say the template expects to work only with parser API version 2, but the generator doesn't support parser 2 or doesn't know that the template is using parser API version 2, the template will try to access API methods that could potentially not exist, for example, right? That's one issue. Any question on that side? I can explain again if it's needed, because I mixed with Modelina stuff. So, and it's nothing about Modelina at this point. It's just the generator. Generator trying to generate code or whatever from templates.
Let me ask a different question. Because we already have this API version, right? So that you can say API version 1, and it's going to use the parser API. if you don't specify API version, then the old parser is used. And it works. And all the templates work. From what's the main reason to get rid of it? Because it's it would be a different discussion if we don't have it yet, and we have to discuss if we want to have it or not. What is important for me, like why we really need to remove it if it actually works.
No, the first suggestion that I made like 4 suggestions. And as far as I remember, none of those included removing that field. So to instead keep it, to keep that field, the parser API version. It was Frank who suggested to remove it in some comment later on, just to try to simplify the way we handle that. So
I think we're mixing multiple things to this discussion now because we are not discussing the future of the parser. So your 4 suggestions, Sergio, that was parser specific, right? It was how you could have multiple versions of the parser API in the same package, or how you could make that easier to interact with. But it doesn't really change how we're going to discuss the generator and the API version field.
sorry, say again, the last part.
The last part is that I don't, even though that I linked that discussion in for this meeting, your 4 suggestions are very specific for the future of the parser, or how you can have multiple parser API versions within the same repository, or how we can release that. But it's kind of a bit unrelated to the generator itself, because that discussion is relevant to the API version field and whether we want that field, and how many values within that field we want to support. Because for the generator itself and templates, the only thing that's relevant right now is that API version field. Whether we still want that, whether we want multiple values within that, or whether we want to remove it completely and only support the latest.
Yeah, but it's completely related to what I'm saying, because that field wasn't created with the only purpose of supporting just one version of the parser API, right? Otherwise, it would be a Boolean value, and that's it.
I'm not sure. I actually don't know, because didn't Fran say that it was? Oh, I can't remember. Someone said something about the API version field was just something temporary, something that should really not be there in the future. Even though that I had the same idea as you, Sergio, where it's like that should be the long-term feature that we used in the generator in order to support that templates can have different ways of interacting with the document, right?
Well, like temporary or not, like it was the initial pull request was opened at the end of last year, but then Sergio took it over because Maciej couldn't around May, and yes, like the initial reason to introduce it was that it's just much easier to it's going to be much easier to migrate existing templates to new parser API instead of having fun with release candidates, because you could always also use release candidates if you would like. It would be just more complex. So that was the main motivation. But
yes,
what I think we can notice, like what we noticed or what we observed, is that by having this flag that actually allows you to use different parser API, we didn't cut out templates developers from using new async API versions, because like we have async API 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, blah 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 every 3 months. So if we wouldn't have this flag and we by default would release generator only supporting new API, then basically all the template developers have to immediately migrate to new parser API because generator will not support latest. Their templates will not work with latest async API versions. So that's from my perspective, and I think that's what I wrote in the comment. That's the only advantage of not removing the field. Like you can imagine, like now it's not a problem because it's 3.0. So anyway, template developer anyway has to update the template anyway. It's not 3.0 will not work out of the box with old API.
It not the old API, no, but version 2, yes. Or if you've used API version 1, it will.
Yeah.
But now we have API version 2 as well. Which means
API?
Yes, we have 2 versions of the parser API right now. And right now it's not supported in the and technically parser API version 1, what's released in the parser, does not support version 3. It's not until parser API version 2 that all of the version 3 stuff has been integrated. And that's been released on version 3 of the parser repository. So that means that some templates, because some templates have been updated to use API version 1, needs to be upgraded again to use API version 2. Which means that we have to do an update in the generator to allow parser API version 2 for us to upgrade it templates to support version 3 of the spec. Alternatively is that we ignore that API version and just upgrade the parser version that it's using, and that's it. Those are the 2 approaches we can take, basically.
But again, if somebody has a parser API 1,
yes,
and let's say we leave this flag, we just add version 2 support. When 3.0 is released, their templates should not be considered as working with 3.0 anyway.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So basically what I mean is that this 3.0 release gives us an opportunity to basically release new major of generator, remove the flag, just support latest parser.
That's definitely an option, yeah.
And we're not harming really template developers because they anyway have to. We're not, because they anyway have to migrate to 3.0 spec. They have to take the effort, plan it, sprints, whatever, agile program, product managers, escalation paths, whatever.
But there are features in the pipeline in the generator, as far as I can recall, something about private template, something in the works, right, in a PR.
Yeah.
If we, for example, update the generator in a major version and suddenly add that feature, it means that if you need that feature, you cannot work with old template versions. So all of a sudden that feature becomes less impactful unless template developers actively update their templates. If we take the other approach and just add another version to that API version field and support multiple API versions, that feature will be impactful to all users. And I'm not sure that there is enough benefit in just removing the field and upgrading the parser version and forcing a single version. I'm not sure that's specifically helpful or long-term desirable, both from template owners and.
What if those users that are forced to update are using other templates that are not up to date with that latest generator version,
But that doesn't really matter.
It matters. So
why?
If they are using one version of the generator and all the templates are compatible, and for some reason they need to update the generator because of that feature or bug fix, let's say feature, and that suddenly only supports the latest parser API, they won't be able to use other the other templates that are not up to date. You know what I mean? They will need to install another generator version. That's the only thing, or play with generators. And that's the point. So when that's the only constraint I see there, right?
So I'm not fully with the argument, Jonas, that you have about, for example, private repos, because it's just a new feature in the generator. We might have like with any other library, when you release major and do this new major, you add some feature that would be nice to have in previous version. You can have this puzzle. So I think it's adding too much complexity to discussion. What I'm basically trying to say is that 3.0 allows us to get rid of the flag without really harming developers, template developers. Doesn't matter if security support, private support is added before we do it or after we do it. But we still have, if we remove the flag, we will back again have this discussion in the future that maybe we should actually have this flag. Because again, let's say it's September still, right? So we release 3.0 next week, let's say. Did you hear what I say?
Oh yeah.
We release, but yeah, let's assume.
I'm planning on it.
So let's release 3.0 next week. And then according to release schedule, we will probably, I'm pretty sure we will have to add some new stuff or fixes 3.1 in December. So if we get rid of the flag and between September and December, we learn parser API is not the best, we need v3, then we want to bump it in the generator, and we just bump it in the generator. We release new major generator, and we do it in November. Then in December 3.1 is released, and then etc., etc., etc. Then we cause really a problem for template developers, because they will be forced to update their templates to use latest parser API, because their templates will not be usable with latest versions of the spec. So we will cause like, and it's I'm pretty sure I'm not pretty sure. I mean, for majority of people, the workaround will be just not use 3.1 or 3.2. They will just use 3.0 and work around. If will be some nice template that just supports 3.0, they will just work around stuff to use 3.0. So what I'm basically trying to say, without API version flag, we will be harming the adoption of new specs. That's, I think, the biggest cons. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
I don't see it.
You don't see it?
No, I mean, I don't get it. So you say harming new spec versions adoption.
Yeah, because like now it was super easy. Like I could see whenever I have discussion with some other companies, and I try to get sometimes case studies from them. For them, like switching between 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, 2.6, it's super easy. They don't have to plan in advance, whatever. It's just number change. So they can really keep up with the latest versions of the spec, which is super nice from my point of view.
But how that would change? I don't.
If
Sorry,
we remove,
yeah,
no worries. So if we remove API version from the generator, it means that let's say we release API version 3, parser API version 3. We update parser JavaScript parser. And if we want to use it in generator, the only solution we have release a major.
Yes.
And this major, only this major, we will support 3.1, 3.2 in the future. So that's the problem. Like that if somebody will decide it's too much effort to migrate the template and people will like the template, then they will stay with 3.0.
Yeah.
That sucks in my opinion, big time.
That's a really good point.
An API version, is it complexity? It's just another flag. On the code level, yeah, but for maintainers it's complex, but for
I don't
template developer it's
think-
not.
But yeah, I mean, if it has a cost to keep that field there as well. That's the reason I started to creating like a simple library that what it does is it's meant for replacing the parser.js dependency on those projects that need to support several parser API versions, like generator and CLI Modelina, would say.
But Modelina, just to clarify, it doesn't have to support multiple parser versions, right? It does?
Yeah, it needs, yes.
Why?
Maybe Jonas can explain better, but
Because let's say that you have a template that uses an old parser version, like using the old API. It gives that to Modelina to generate models in the template when it's run through the generator. So that means that it has, like, that user has no, that's to be backwards compatible. I'm aware of that, but I also want to have that. So it's only in order to be backwards compatible, and regardless of what parser version you're using, Modelina should support it. Because in, like, underneath everything, like, it's just two structures. We have version 2 and version 3. So it's not that big of a deal. We just need to convert between two different parser versions. And it's because that Modelina itself is written using one of the parser versions as well. So regardless of what you gives it, it's not always a one-to-one with what it uses. So in order to be as lenient and as backwards compatible as possible, it will support multiple. Because the underlying structure doesn't change. So it should be easily interchangeable between the parser versions, which Sergio also proved to be possible. Which is what we, in theory, also need for the generator. If you want it.
In Modelina, you just work with schemas, right?
No, you also iterate over the document. But yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it is working with schemas.
Yeah, but you're basically talking about the case where I have a template that uses Modelina to generate models. And let's say I have a model for Java, some Podio, whatever, and something was missing. So I contribute to Modelina to have it. But then to really have it in my template, or suddenly I realize that I have to upgrade the whole template because template is using parser 2 and Modelina, where I added support for it, is using v3. And I'm stuck. Okay.
That's one of the use cases. Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, Jonas. So it's the design decision that the input of Modelina it's for the async API generator. I don't know how, I don't remember the naming on Modelina at this, like the input of Modelina, the async API input.
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It is a parsed document object.
Can be.
It can be.
But it
And
can
this is
also
how
just be wrong.
CLI does. Yeah, I can tell you.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. That's how
I
it
mean,
works.
yeah, I mean, I was trying to add support for generating models. The reality is that I was trying to add support for validating async API version 3 documents on the CLI, but as I updated the parser.js, the generate command of CLI was broken completely. Why? Because the part that generates code through Modelina was generating a parsed document based on parser API version 2, which wasn't compatible with the input that was fed in Modelina. And yeah, with the library, with some just converting to the right one, to the one that expect Modelina, the generation works. It's not expected to be like that, so I would expect Modelina to be the one that it's compatible with several, instead of the CLI try to convert it to what Modelina understands. But it was just for proving that that could be possible. And it is. So if we want to go in that direction, we could use that external library in Generator and Modelina, and I think CLI wouldn't be needed. I'm not sure. Once Modelina had support for that, but
I mean, it could, for example, validate command, right?
But you can validate with latest version, right, of the parser. You can validate a version 2, version 3 document anyway.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because you are using the parser and the parser completely understands whatever
Okay, yeah.
internally.
Yeah.
So for Generator and Modelina, we could use this library I pasted there, which basically I can share very quickly. I don't want to, it's disabled anyway. I cannot share, but
It just converts between parser versions.
yes.
That's it.
And basically, instead of doing it differently in every single library, we have a library that does it for us.
Yes. It has two things.
How many lines of code it has?
No, yeah, that I wanted to share because it's very stupid.
100.
Can I share?
Yeah.
Screen? No, I can't. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Okay. So this is the library. It's just two main things: parse and convert. Convert, that's the trick, you know? You have to, this is all the thing you will do in your library for supporting several versions of the parser API, just to import the same parser several times. I'm not going to enter into the discussion of if this is performant or not, or if this will increase your package. I don't care about this discussion. But this is so simple. So you import one parser or another, and then you use it based on an argument that you pass to this method. And then transformation, it's just a matter of of getting the parsed document and pass it to the right object that it's exported in the right version of the parser version 2, version 3, version whatever. That's it. So maintaining this shouldn't be a pain. It's just for major versions.
Shouldn't it be part of parser then?
I don't think it should be part of the parser, to be honest, because
it could, but you have to add. The problem is dependencies. Like you
Yes.
have to add the old parser as a dependency, and
And
that
other versions.
bloats the parser. That specific version of the parser will become bloated, which might not be intended. And especially if Magic was here, you would say no.
I mean,
No way.
This is a very, very reduced use case. It's just the generator and Modelina. And
Yeah.
most users won't use that, right? They won't need to support unless you have a SaaS or something like, a platform that supports several. I don't know. I don't think so. But it's a very weird use case. So having all this logic into the parser, having to import several versions of the parser in your parser, that doesn't make sense. Then that will increase the parser package size, and that's for sure not intended. Doesn't make sense. That's why I created this is as a proof of concept, so we can merge it. I can put it like with a proper name and proper documentation, and we can adopt it in async API if people agrees. So this will be for Modelina that it's converting, and for the generator, we could write directly just instantiate the right version of the parser
Based on the template configuration.
on the template parser API version, right?
Yeah. So coming back to the generator and these two options, I have a feeling that we all leaning towards keeping the API version field? Sergio?
Sorry, say again?
Are we all like leaning towards keeping the field and just adding a new value?
I am, at least.
Yeah, sounds like. Unless someone can beat my argument about spec adoption.
No, I'm leaning towards this as well because I agree. It will cut out so many users if we do it the other way. And I don't feel like it's that huge of a pain maintenance wise.
Something I'm sorry, but I have to leave because I have a medical appointment with my kid. But something I wrote in the issue is that if we proceed to this, I think we have to write kind of like support matrix, like don't support all parser API versions forever. Just, for example, the old API plus 2 measured parser API or something like this.
As long as it's possible, I would say we do it. But we might end up at some point where it's not possible to support old versions of the parser API because we can't convert between them.
If you have this magic package, then we can support as many as we want.
Yeah, but that's only until you can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
If there's something in the underlying, like how you can convert stuff, if that changes in some way or form, but we don't it API version 2, and that see how it works. If everything goes wrong, we can always revert and do something else. But
blame Sergio.
Yeah, exactly. And that also means that we don't have to release a major version of the generator. We just do a feature release. And everything is happy.
Folks, I have to leave. I will
worries,
watch
man.
recording later. Thank you.
Do we have a
Thank you.
related generator issue for it? We have, right?
I don't think we have.
Oh,
I actually don't know. I don't think so.
no.
No. I mean, it's kind of related to the free support, but it's nothing in this type of discussion.
Oh, because it's basically about the future of API, not future of the generator, but like the feature that we have there, API version.
Yeah. Um,
To start with the, did you see the question? Getting started with parser in what way? Like, what do you want to use it for, Alex?
Hello guys.
Yeah, hey man.
Yeah.
What?
I just want to know if there are any guides for getting started with parser.
So,
Like
sorry,
how guys,
sorry,
can you hear me?
Alex, you have to be a bit louder because it's.
Okay, can you hear me?
Oh yeah,
Is this better?
yeah, better.
Okay. So I was saying I like to know how to get started with parser and how things tie around because I'm hearing things like the generator, Modelina, and the parser. So I don't know how these guys tie around. Like I don't know how they work together. I don't know if you get me.
Yeah, but like, from what perspective you're looking into getting started with parser? Like, you want to use it somewhere or you want to contribute to it?
Yeah, contributing to it, or yeah, contributing to it because I opened an issue on it. So yeah, thinking of contributing to it.
Okay, so contribute to you're planning to contribute to parser.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I don't think you need to know how it plays with Modelina and generator. The most important is to basically understand what the parser does. But to contribute to it, I'm definitely not the one that should advise you because I dropped out as a maintainer. So Jonas.
And also there's a GLI issue on updating to parser version 3. I'm stuck on that. So I'm looking forward to like I had an issue. I was trying to update the GLI. GLI is using parser version 2. So I was trying to update it to version 3. I think it's an issue in the GLI repository.
yeah, honestly, I have no idea what's the best way to like get started with the parser. Like, the only thing I can say is take notice at the branches that we're using. So the newest one, the one that supports v3 and all the other stuff, is this one. It got a lot of documentation in the README file. That's a great start. Otherwise, if you encounter like something like questions or blockers, something you can figure out on your own, just write on Slack in the tools channel. And yeah, I'm sure there's folks that can help you out there, me included.
All right, that's cool. Thanks.
But from GLI perspective, I guess the main stuff that you need to understand is that parser in a GLI, probably you have to extract some information about some server from async API document or some something like this. So you like the best is grab the parser as an independent library, try to push any async API document through this parser, and the latest one, of course, the V3, V3, V2. Yeah, not sure what's the latest release candidate, but yeah, grab the library, try to use it in a standalone project. That's always the best way to learn what's the purpose and how it works. So like start bare minimum project, get parser, get async API document, push it through the parser. You'll see that it has two responsibilities, like main two responsibilities. It's for validating if your async API document is correct. And the other one is that it's exposing to you a set of helpers that you can use to access the contents of async API document. Because async API document, not sure if you're already familiar, it might be a large YAML JSON file, which you don't want to iterate over on your own with some custom codes, beautiful for loops, etc. Going into the issues with recurrency, etc. So that's what parser is for. It gives you a function to, for example, extract all the messages from the whole document. And I assume that in GLI, what it means that you basically have to take some of the functions that were in GLI, probably parser version 1, So there are some functions like probably get servers, or not get servers, servers dot, I don't remember, but yeah, all servers, something like this. And you need to check out in the latest version. I see the Jonas pasted the link to migration guide. You just have to see what methods got deprecated, what are the names of the new methods, etc. Yeah,
That's cool. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So it's not about contributing to the parser, you mean contributing to GLI.
Yeah, I believe, but I have an
Oh.
issue. I opened up parser too, so yeah, I'll still contribute to parser. So it's too I don't know if I can. I'll paste the link to the issue here.
You
So
need to add something to the parser.
Yes. There's something that GLI uses that wasn't present in the latest version of parser, or maybe the implementation was not the same. If the implementation changed or something.
It did.
Oh.
Yeah,
I
the
think.
implementation changed, so I didn't know at that point in time, so I opened the what do you call it, an issue on it. So it's basically let me get the link to the issue. I'll paste it.
But don't paste it here because it's gonna be lost in the chat. So better after the call, if you're in our Slack, paste it in the tooling channel.
Okay, all right.
Ask your question there, and I bet someone will be able to jump in. I see that Ace is happy to help, so like for sure someone will respond.
Regarding the issue in the generator, I'm gonna use the spec-free issue as kind of the go-to for this discussion.
Because didn't it all come from the somewhere with something with markdown template? Is it related?
Kind of, because I tried to update the markdown template, but because it's not possible to use version 3 documents with the generator, it's like I can't update it because the generator doesn't support it yet. So we need to add support for it ASAP, and I'm probably gonna do it today and add a PR, and then hopefully it can see what happens.
Then in the same issue, I'll add after the meeting, we need to provide links to this discussion, and also I'll write a short note about the main advantage of keeping API version, which is adoption of the spec.
Makes sense. Yeah. Anything else for this discussion before we switch meetings?
Oh yeah, another one.
Yay.
UPIA.
Ain't we happy? And I need to fetch some water as well, so it's fine if we have 5 minutes. All right, if nothing else, see you next meeting. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.